ever tried to do a video interview across the internet, and something happened last week which just prompted me to think, I've got to do this and I've got to do it quick. So this afternoon, from the other side of the world, or the other side of Europe at least, my friend Ivan Sanchez is here. Say hi, Ivan.
Hi, Ivan.
All right, or even say hi, Stephen, if you like. Ivan,
hey, you said me. You told to say hi, Ivan. So
yeah, and you did exactly what I asked. So Ivan is a really smart guy. Really smart. He's been right at the heart of OpenStreetMap for years and years and years. I can't even remember how long ago I met him at an OpenStreetMap conference. He's also active in open source development. Has been very active in the Leaflet program project. And recently he released something. Now, excuse me, because I don't normally swear, but Ivan released something called what3f. And so I guess the first thing that I've got to ask you, Ivan, is before you do anything, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I've got some more questions for you.
So I was born in the 80s. I wrote my first computer program when I was 7 in a Sinclair Spectrum. I got into university in computer science. A few years later, a girlfriend prompted me to buy a GPS receiver. Then I dropped out of university, and here I am, doing geospatial things with computers.
So where are you working now?
Right now, I'm working at Rimjob Jarkov Douchebag, actually, doing some map stuff with mostly JavaScript and Leaflet. I have been involved in the OpenStreetMap community for a few years, as you have said. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to be everywhere at once. So right now, I'm focusing only on Leaflet, the JavaScript mapping library.
Which is an awesome library, and even idiots like me are starting to work out how to use it. So, Ivan, here's the big question. What the fuck is what3f?
It's a joke, okay? In the end, I think it's a joke. Because if somebody thinks that it's a good idea to name places of the earth using a string of random words, I think that's a joke. So what I'm doing here is making a good joke. That's it. It's funny because when any of my friends are using this, they all giggle like school children, right?
That they certainly will do. So I don't know whether we can do a screen share and whether it's going to work. I mean, in theory, it's going to work because what you do is a little bit different, isn't it? It's to some of the other location grids. Show us what you do.
Okay, so the concept is very well explained in the frequently fucked up ask questions. So it's perfectly explained there in the how does it fucking work section. Right, there's I had a couple of ideas, something like 6 months ago, and doodled a few things on a few notebooks, and later I found there were some wonderful academic papers made 20 years ago in the University of Zurich with something called quaternary triangle meshes, and in particular this kind of octahedral quaternary triangle mesh. So it's basically you got an octahedron, which is this platonic solid made of 8 triangles. You think that the Earth is an octahedron, and each of the triangle faces of the octahedron you divide or you split into 4 triangle faces. You assign a number to them, and you just encode that number with different schemes. Really, that's it.
So it's all about triangles.
It's all about triangles, exactly. I would have liked to use a more refined version of this using hexagons and something called the icosahedral grid, the icosahedral signer equal area grid tessellation. But that has a set of bad properties. For example, if you're working with the kind of precision that we need for geopositioning nowadays, you need to do as little trigonometry as possible. So if you're doing sines and cosines and reprojections, and you're doing great circles at every subdivision step, it's going to lose a lot of precision. So one good property that this method has is that there's no precision loss at all, because there's no trigonometry at all. It's a very naive projection, and it has a few properties I don't like. For example, it's not equal area at all, but it's fast, and it's completely deterministic, so I like it.
So I played around with it, and to me, what was amazing was the triangles within the triangles.
Yeah.
Because it meant that if I wanted to say where I lived, I could do that with coarse granularity with 3 words. That's, I don't know, but sort of it looked to me like it was something like a triangle that was about 1/4 of a mile in length in one direction in the area that I live in. But if I wanted to get really precise, I could go to 4 words or 5 words. And I think if I got to 6 words, I was actually having 2 triangles on my house.
Yeah, actually, it's called giving more facts, right?
Okay.
You have to give more facts if you want more precision, and you would need to give less facts if you want to give less precision. Also, you can give no facts at all if you don't want to say where you live, right? It's all about giving a fact.
Okay. So
the thing here, and this is a concept I really like. There is this, I guess you and the people viewing this know XKCD, the webcomic about science and math. So there's this one webpage they had about informational density, which I absolutely loved, explaining how much information can you encode in any given word, right, or in any given phrase. So it turns out that English has an informational density of 1.1 bits per character, right? Even though in computer science a character is at least 8 bits, a number from 0 to 256. Right. You can only encode so much information in words that make sense, right? If you chain words that don't make any sense, you will improve the information density. But how to do that? It's very tricky, and it's worth of study, obviously, and it's worth of discussion. So what I'm doing here is we start with an octahedron which has 8 faces, right? That's 3 bits of information. It's 2 to the 3rd power, right? Every time you divide a triangle into 4 triangles, that's a number from 1 to 4, that's 2 more bits of information, right? So every time you divide an area into 4 areas of equal size, you have to add 2 bits to the information amount you got in that area of the Earth, right? So what I'm doing here, I'm working with a dictionary of 512 different facts. And every time you give one more fact, you're adding 9 bits of precision, right? So what you do is you start splitting triangles more and more and more until you got at least 9 bits of precision. Then you can give a fact about that. You keep splitting that triangles until you add at least 9 more bits of precision. You give one more fact, and so on and so on and so on. Ultimately, it's really a very, very simple and very, very obvious application of discrete mathematics, right? It's a big number. You just make a modulus size of the dictionary you're working with, and you get different facts, or it's really different digits, right? You don't need to think about words or facts. You need to think about digits. It's really a big number with big digits. And anybody in computer science knows how to count in binary or hexadecimal. If you can count in 512 facts instead, right? So first you get a number from a very, very small triangle, and every triangle in the Earth has a different number, and you translate that number to a different base, right? That's it. That's the whole technology about it. It's a 20-year-old algorithm for splitting the Earth, and first year of university mathematics level conversion for making the number in another base. Really, that's it.
Okay, so we've got a sort of understanding of how it works. I mean, some of this first year university mathematics is still pretty complicated for an old guy like me, but I'm going to take your word for it. This must have taken ages to do this.
I actually think it has taken like 5 or 6 weekends, all of it.
It's that.
And most of the time it was wasted researching better algorithms, because the discrete geodetic grid I'm using, when you take the Earth or a sphere or a geoid and divide it in regular or semi-regular pieces, it's called a global discrete geodetic grid. All right. So when you do a GDGG, there are different kind of GDGGs, and the one I was using, which is the octahedral quaternary triangle mesh, it has a set of bad qualities. Namely, the ratio between the smallest and the biggest triangle is 1.8 to 1, meaning there's one triangle which is almost double the size as some other triangle at the same resolution level, right? So that's one quality I didn't like. And I spent maybe 2 or 3 or 4 weekends trying to research better algorithms, trying to make things with angles, making one pass of trigonometry, making one reprojection, making one set of great circles. In the end, the simplest way was to just use this scheme, really. And writing the algorithm, writing the web page, everything, it takes really 1 weekend or 2. That's it. You don't need, and this is the thing, you don't need more time than this. Okay, that's the time it takes for somebody to implement this algorithm and implement a website with it. That's it. It doesn't take any more.
Okay, so I suppose the question is this going to make you a millionaire?
It's going to make me laugh, at least. Okay. It's making me laugh, and that's the whole point.
Yeah, and I think the man who laughs is a very wealthy man.
I could use some more material wealth anyway. So if anybody wants me to adapt what3f to their own purposes, I will be happy to take any physical money for it.
Okay, so that takes me to being a little, so you did this, and it was to amuse yourself and to amuse your friends, and it certainly made me roar with laughter when I saw it. But I mean, we've talked previously about this and said that there are opportunities to use this slightly more serious. So tell me how you think someone might use what3f.
So actually, it's not about what3f itself. I mean, there's the funny part, right? Which is what3f, and we can giggle like school children, right? By seeing funny names with rote-sounding words, and we can laugh at that. But there's a couple of serious issues underlying here. For example, can we apply potentially offensive language to place names? Is that right to do on a global scale or on a small scale? Is it okay if one place on the earth is called fucking in Austria? Is it okay if a lot of places in the earth contain the word fucking? Is that okay? Is that not okay? I want to know. Okay. I also want to know what kind of applications do these global grids have? Because during my research, I found another few papers about triangular meshes made by Microsoft Research back in 2005, I think. And they're using it for database indexing of celestial objects, right? Like nebulas and stars and basically star charts. They use triangle grids or something called some equal area square thing, which distorts shape in the poles. So right now there are people in the geospatial or spatial industry using this kind of triangle meshes for indexing databases, but this technology has not permeated to land-based GIS or to Earth-based GIS, and I want to know why, right? If there's a way to index stars on the sky by using triangles, why is there no way to index points on the Earth using triangles? I want to know. Or hexagons, or whatever you want, right? So all the kind of this thing are very, very interesting to research. Also, I found, and this is funny, I found an OGC working group, an Open Geospatial Consortium working group about geospatial, about global geodetic grids, and it's had like no activity at all, right? So you have to wonder, okay, if if the OGC has a working group about geodetic grids and nobody is working on that, is there really any effect on the GIS industry of geodetic grids? I have to ask these questions, right? And obviously, the code is open source, is under a do what the fuck you want license. So that means you can do whatever the fuck you want. I think that doesn't really need an explanation. So if anybody wants to use the algorithm for different purposes, please be welcome. Okay, the code is out there.
So if I was a courier company, for example,
Mm-hmm.
I might not want to use the kind of language that you've included in your dictionary, but I could.
You would like to use your local language to give the facts. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I could make any dictionary of 512 discrete words,
or any amount of words, right? The dictionary size is unbound.
Right.
Really. So you actually can use whatever method of encoding you want. And that's actually something that I would like to research. Can you use Punycode? Can you use some kind of Hoffman compression on the bits? Can you shuffle the bits around so the things which are on Earth are lower IDs than the things on sea? So the things on Earth get shorter words? I would like to research that.
Yeah.
Right, that is interesting. So you would make an index, a table, like this is something similar to what Mapcode did a few years ago. Right, they assigned lower IDs to big cities, so you get shorter codes on cities. Right, so I could do the same. I could assign lower IDs to the cities, shuffling around bits of the triangles or making a lookup table somewhere, so I could give less facts on land than on sea, right? It's all about it's mathematics and it's fun.
And
right?
shorter facts for cities than for rural, unpopulated areas, for example.
Yeah, but you mean if I wanted to make a global addressing system, I would like it to work both in populated areas and unpopulated places, because I don't know how cities will develop. Right? So what if I have a system which the current city has a very nice and beautiful addressing scheme, but whenever you build outside the city, you will get a horrible address, right? Because the system is set that way. I wouldn't like that, right? I wouldn't like, if I was a city major, I wouldn't like my construction plans to be determined by a naming algorithm. I would like to give names to the things I would allow to build in my city, right?
Okay, so you could actually start to let people choose the names that would come up in their multi-word addresses.
I don't give a fuck about what people call their addresses, really.
Okay.
That's it. And the thing is, the amount of information you need to give an address in lat long, it's exactly the same amount of information you need to give an address on what3f. It has the same amount of bytes. So it's, and this is the funny thing, it's as easy to remember, right? It doesn't give you any mnemonic advantage to have words or numbers or facts, or I have been told to make species of ducks, so I could make what3 ducks.
Right.
But it doesn't give you any advantage, really. Any addressing system will have a different informational density in bytes per length of whatever. So there's no benefit at all in remembering one or the other, right?
So we could end up going back to numbers.
We should, I think. We should go up and go back to numbers. There is this one addressing scheme I saw something like 3 years ago. So you have something like a very big, famous place around where a focal point of a city, and then you give a clock direction and a distance from that point. Right. So that's beautiful, and that also has the same informational density. Only you are focusing on that place, right? On that very famous place. So that works perfectly also. I don't think that what3f will become famous and widely used, right? It's a joke.
Okay. But it's a joke that that other people can play around with, because
Absolutely.
it's not proprietary, it's open source, so anybody can go to GitHub and
not yet. I haven't made public the repo. I really want to make that, right? But if you are very, very inclined to it, you just right click on the web page and see the source code.
Okay. So
that's it. I will release the source code in the repo in the following weeks. It's just seriously,
you've got
it's 5 weekends. Okay, I cannot do everything in 5 weekends perfectly.
Okay. So my last question for you, or almost penultimate question: what kind of reactions have you had so far to?
I've had a few complaints. Okay, I've had a complaint.
Why? I just can't think why.
Yeah, so one guy from Australia, I think, he complained that his address didn't have any facts on it. He actually wanted more facts on his address. So I got that complaint. Another Australian guy complained about the address not having enough cunts. So he wanted less facts and more cunts on the address. That's the kind of complaints I've had. Right. But what's worrying me, and this really is worrying me, apparently I've had some complaints from a third party, and that third party complained not to me but to Mapsen. So I was using the geocoding plugin from Mapsen. I was using their service, Pilayas it's called, for you can type a real place name and you would get the what3f address for that name, right? So apparently somebody complained to Mapsen because somebody found it offensive, and it's crazy. Okay, if somebody complains, if somebody thinks that what3f is offensive, you can tell fuck@what3f.com. You don't need to click on whoever is providing the geocoding and complain to them, so they can then cut the access to my to the geocoding token I'm using. So that I've had this crazy, for me it has been a crazy riffraff with the CEO of Mapsen about the terms of use of the Mapsen search, right? And I mean, it's okay if Mapsen doesn't want to be associated with what3f. That's fine with me, right? It's their, as I told them in Twitter, it's like, it's your party, okay? You get to decide who's invited to a party. And if you want to throw anybody out of the party, fine, it's your party. But I have the right to go to other party right away, okay? So that's fine. And for me, this is the, and I really think this is a clear textbook example of the US-centric kind of paternalistic approach to morals, right? In the US, it's completely okay if you shoot a black guy dead, but it's not okay if you say fuck in public or penis in public, right? So for me, it's mind-blowing, completely mind-blowing. How is what3f offensive? Because it's not being used personally, right? It's just plain words with no association to anybody, right? So why are you getting offended by just words? It's words.
You could take any of those words, put them into your favorite search engine, and see hundreds and hundreds of pages rendering, and yeah, it's crazy.
For me, it's crazy. For me, this kind of approach of we don't have to show, but we don't have to show swear words or cuss words to other people because they might not like us. That's childish. Okay, that's really childish. I get it. I get that people have a right to feel safe, right? And I get that people have a right to not be attacked verbally. I get that. I completely get that. But there's a difference between writing swear words and directing swear words at somebody.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
Okay, there's a complete difference in that.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, this is funny, you know. And if you don't find it, if you don't think it's funny, you arrive on the very first page and you can just go somewhere else, you know.
Yeah. I mean, there's a fuck in what3f.
Yeah.
Which is, I find this offensive, and the answer to that fuck is fuck off.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't like this, you're free to go anywhere else. I'm not making you use this system. You're not obliged to use this system. I'm not forcing this on anybody, right?
Yeah.
No one is forced to use my geocoding system for anything.
No, there's lots of stuff that's offensive on the internet. Yeah, we all have a choice about what we look at and what we use. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I was offended today because I was called a jester, right? Which is not an offensive word per se, but I take offense in that because I'm not just a funny guy. You know, I know a fair bit about science, so I would like to be remembered about the sciencey bits of my life and not the funny bits of my life. Right? So I take offense in being called a jester.
I think I can call you smart and funny.
That's okay.
That's okay.
And I will just forgive everything if anybody invites me to a beer. That's fine.
Okay. So in that case, let's finish it here by me inviting you to a beer when we're both going to be in Bonn, and we will give a fuck.
Oh yes.
At Phosphor-G. And normally when we're talking about open source, we say things like, may the FOSS be with you. Ivan, I'm going to say to you, may the fucks be with you.
May the fucks be with you, buddy.
Take care, my friend. Bye.
Bye.